not necessarily that I'm not strange, poltergeist, affiliated.
You have everything of a great conspiracy. How did I get?
Yeah, it's kind of a creepy place, you know, because there's no light at all.
A lot of experiments out there.
Plutonium, nuclear weapon.
Nuclear destruction. They're just balls of light. There's a ghost now.
Broadcasting live just outside the Napa Valley wine country through the mystical Sonoma Mountains. This is Beyond the Strange. Good evening, everyone. I am your host, Dave Cruz. Thank you for joining us this evening. We are live on the Fringe FM, doing what we do, the paranormal, once again. Calling number tonight is 1-415-891-9083. Again, that number is 1-415-891-9083 when the phone lines open. It is Sunday, April 5th, 2020. Got a lot going on right now. Just bear with me, folks. We'll get to all the good stuff. Tonight we have paranormal investigator and author Rick Hale will be joining us at the bottom of the hour. So much to talk about. But first, remember, you can follow us on Twitter. It's Strange Days 2015. The hashtag is Beyonders. And of course, you can always go to the Discord channel in the Strange chat. Ask for an invite to the Discord channel or go to beyondthestrange.com and click on the chat tab, and that'll get you in the Strange chat. Tonight I will be in the Fringe FM official chat Discord channel, and I see Amanda's in there, Catalina, the Night Stalker. What's up, peoples? Good to see the Fringe listeners, the friends all together. Glad to see them, and who knows, maybe Joe Roop will stop by and say hi. Just kidding, Joe. I know you're a busy guy. And yeah, so anyways, you can get into those Discord chats and check it out. Hang out while we're listening to the show. Instagram, you can go to the Beyond the Strange Instagram, and we are on Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. You know, I think Facebook actually bought Instagram. Might have happened a while ago. I'm kind of new to that. But yeah, kind of the same now, I think. But anyways, you can find the show there as well, social media, and also the podcast after the show later on. Find it on iTunes, Google Play, Spreaker, and Stitcher. Please remember to leave a like and comment for the show. Hit that follow button, please. It helps, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen. We really need you to click those buttons, share, and follow. It'd be wonderful for you guys to do that. I would really appreciate it. Christine and Lisa, thank you for joining us in the YouTube. Right there in the channel there. It is live. I appreciate that. All right. And what else? We're almost done, I promise. Okay. Keep checking Beyond the Strange website for future updates, merchandise, giveaways, and prizes for the show. Please show your support for the show by going to the website. Top tab button, support us tab. Really appreciate your donations, people. You know, we're all in a tough time. I know, I understand. A couple of bucks here and there, really appreciate it. Goes a long ways. CG, thanks for showing up. Russ Bailey, my brother, thank you. In the Fringe FM Discord chat. And yeah, so just remember to like, subscribe, and share. Like, subscribe, and share. And if you want to throw a comment in there, go ahead. That always helps too. I really appreciate that. Okay, so we got a few things before we go to the Roger Report. And first and foremost, I just want to say thank you all for being here tonight. And that's not easy considering what we're all going through as a nation, as the human race, hell, with this coronavirus. And okay, so if you hear me sniffle and my voice is kind of jacked up, last week I couldn't make the show either because my throat was just toast. I am suffering from allergies. Okay, I don't have the virus. I don't have a cold or a flu. I just have really bad allergies. Which reminds me, I wanted to talk about this point really quick because I'm seeing a lot of things on social media about how there's a cover up with this virus and it's killing people, and that's how the numbers are going up and stuff like that. I mean, if you want really good, honest reporting, honestly, Ryan Gable's the guy to listen to from The Secret Teachings. And everything he says is on point. I mean, in my opinion, there's nothing to support anything about 5G, anything to support about rescuing children from underground tunnels. There's nothing to support that this is going to be an economic reset by the powers that be. I mean, we've all heard all the scenarios and the stories on social media. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because people are turning against each other. I mean, it was bad enough when you had the left versus the right, but now we got all kinds of other stuff happening. And, you know, if you want to believe there's a one world government that is trying to break us apart, well, guess what? They're winning because you guys are just going at each other's throats. I mean, come on. If you don't believe it, you don't have to say anything. You can just keep it to yourself. You know, I mean, it's just being cordial. Okay. You know, it's like this one guy, Mark Joycox, I believe that's his name. He's been stalking me on Facebook for the past 2 to 3 months. And we were going to do a show. We were going to do some chatting. We're going to talk. I've talked to him for quite a bit. He's an interesting guy. He's got some interesting theories. And then he starts being very nasty and rude to my friends on Facebook and in my groups. Okay. I don't normally air this stuff out on the radio. Honestly, I swear. But that really ticked me off. Okay. And then after I blocked the guy, I see that he's following some of the people that I know on Facebook and then starts talking crap about me on their thread. And it's like, what are you doing, man? You know, it's ridiculous. There's just, trolling is ridiculous. I mean, I've had it happen to me before in YouTube, and to be quite frankly, I don't care. You know, I don't care. If you don't like the show, don't listen. You know, if you want to put a thumbs down, go ahead. I don't care. Okay. It's the people who listen I care about. The people who have real comments that I care about. You know, and Kat, I agree with you. I understand that's why you don't do Facebook. You know, I kind of don't want to do that either. Mike, you're in the right room. It's all good. There's no voice chat in there. That's a Gigi thing, and we do that for our show and his show, but I don't do that for mine. But that's why we listen on the Fringe FM right here live, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. All right. Anyways, getting back to what I was saying, I don't want to take up the whole show, talking about trolls and talking about people who they're just mean and nasty. But seriously, it's like, why do people got to be like that? We're in a time right now where we have to come together. We need to help our neighbors. We need to help our families. We need to stay alert, and we just got to be vigilant, We just got to just really take care of one another in however way we can. It's like, anyways, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do this show. I don't have to post things on Facebook. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do any of that. I do it because I want to. I do it for me. And I like to do it for you guys too. So anyways, I appreciate everyone that's in the main hall, Fringe FM, chat room and Discord. You guys are great. And the people who can make it to YouTube, outstanding. Kim J, thanks for joining us. Lisa. And, it's wonderful. It's a great thing when, people are there to listen. And, I really do try to put on a good show for you guys, and I bring great guests with awesome information, for you, and for me. Okay. I'm not going to lie. I love talking to people on the show, and Rick Hale is, one person that, is going to be very awesome. I could tell you that, with a lot of paranormal stuff that's he's encountered over the years. And we don't always have to talk about this virus thing. It's already taken up too much of our lives. But I do want to bring up a couple of things that I saw. Where did I see them at? They were in Beyonder's Crew, a group that's on Facebook for the show, which is growing by leaps and bounds thanks to Russ Bailey. Thank you again, Mr. Bailey. Greatly appreciate that. Let me see, where can I find it? Matter of fact, this is one of Russ's articles that he posted in the Strange Chat, Disclose TV. There have been 3 cylindrical objects fly on the moon and cast shadows on craters. You got to go to check it out to either disclose.tv, or you can go to the Facebook Beyonders Crew. You can join it. It's free. There's plenty of like-minded people who love to talk about paranormal and UFOs and all kinds of stuff like that. It's a really great article, group for that. And of course, this is some amazing footage. You can see the surface of the moon, and then you got these 3 white dots. They're just flying around. The 3 cylindrical objects are taken from the telescope of an amateur astronomer fly on the moon, and they're casting the shadows on the craters. It says lately there is a frenetic activity of unidentified objects on the Earth, and the moon is no different. It's pretty amazing if it's real. There's been a lot of interesting stuff happening lately out there. And that's another thing I noticed. California has been like, for some reason, we're getting some late rain, which is good. It's just overcast quite a bit. So we don't get to see the sky like we normally do. And I do believe there are chemtrails. So I'm going to put it out there. there could be some chemtrails behind these clouds that we don't know about. And there are some good days, but whenever they ask or they say that we're going to have rain, guess what? You got chemtrails right before it starts to rain. So, that's pretty suspect. Also, some really interesting things Rick Eddy posted in the Beyonders crew on Facebook shows that there's a UFO chases a jet and overtakes it in broad daylight. Now, these are videos, okay? So there's really not much for me to talk about, but it's really amazing. Amazing pictures of these. One of them is it looks like an airplane. It's got some trails behind it, and then in front of it, there's like this. It's a white object with a little couple of how do I describe it? I want to say pins on the end. It's really bizarre. But it does say an impressive video was sent to MUFON showing a UFO chasing a plane at high speed at full hours of the day. UFO chases a jet and overtakes. The film material shows first an orb of white light and following a jet after the wake or jet thrown. Then incredibly, the orb passes the jet, but at no time is it possible to see the orb launch a wake of steam. The video was sent to MUFON last year. However, it is again being discussed and analyzed because it is a very surprising material. In addition to the interesting video, you have the complete testimony of the witnesses, which was present by a member of the Army. Interesting. What is interesting is that the video is being promoted at this moment is slightly different from the one that is published in MUFON, but the one published in MUFON seems to be the final video of many captured by the witnesses where the UFO chases the jet and it overtakes it, just screams right by it. So yeah, it has testimonies in here. This is at infinityexplorers.com. And once again, if you want to check that out, all you got to do is go to Beyonders Crew on Facebook and ask to get in, and you'll see a lot of great articles right there in Beyonders Crew. I got to do something really quick, people, so don't go away. Bear with me. But we are going to be going to the Roga Report. And once again, I just want to thank everyone showing up tonight. And my voice is a little hoarse and things have been pretty abnormal, but we're getting through it. By the way, I don't know if you guys, I'm sure most of you have seen Endgame by now, but I watched it again today. For some reason, I watched the Endgame, the Avengers, and I just can't help but think of all this predictive programming that we're finally seeing happening in reality, and God, I hope it's not true that that's what the end game is, basically to wipe out half of us or even more. I don't like sounding bleak or grim, but it just, something to think about. If there really is an agenda, definitely need to know what it is. But Mr. Hale, how's it going, buddy? Watched Endgame like 6 times. Yeah, it was my second time. For some reason, I got Disney Plus. Everything's on there. I mean, if you guys, okay, really quick before we go to break. These are the main things right now I'm binging on while we're, staying at home. So we have, first of all, like I said, I watched Endgame. We got Disney Plus. We got the DC app because I'm a comic book nerd. Let's see what else. Of course, Netflix. And I'm catching up on Lucifer, of all things. I mean, my wife, Deb, she got me watching it because our daughter, she got her watching it when she was in Colorado. So then when she comes back, she's like, you got to watch Lucifer. You got to watch Lucifer. And I'm like, Lucifer? Why would I watch Lucifer? If you guys know me, I'm like, no, hell to the no, because I believe that's all evil stuff that they're trying to corrupt our minds with. But, it's like, I know the whole story. I've been through a lot of churches. I've read a lot of scriptures, a lot of doctrines, different doctrines. Me and Joe Roop have had plenty of conversations about Lucifer and Jesus and all kinds of stuff, a lot of esoteric stuff. But man, that is a funny ass show. I'm serious. Lucifer is crazy. First of all, he's hilarious. And why do they always got to be Brits? They always got to be British. Either they're an alien or they're a demon or some kind of high god, low god. It's just, it cracks me up, man. They always got to be a Brit. But yeah, it's a good show. It really is. And so we've been binging on that. Been binging on Ozark season 3. Oh my God. Right now is the best time to catch up on Ozark. If you guys haven't watched Ozark, man, I'll tell you what, Jason Bateman, amazing. But the gal who does Ruth on that show, man, she's awesome. You guys got to watch Ozark. It's just amazing. And, Walking Dead, we're finishing that. And Better Call Saul. I mean, that's, if you guys ever got into the Breaking Bad universe, Better Call Saul, man, I'm telling you, it is fantastic. The writing is amazing. It's just great stuff. Oh yeah, Iron Fist. I love that show. That was awesome. But yeah, all those apps, those are all good. Swamp Thing's good. It's pretty good, for horror for DC. And Constantine, I caught up on that. But yeah, good stuff. Yeah, no bad. Rivers, you're right. I was hoping for season 2, but Constantine is on Legends of Tomorrow, even though it's campy. But still, he's on there if you want to watch Constantine, the guy that plays it. Something Ryan, I can't remember his name right now, but yeah, it's good stuff. But yeah, it's Legends of Tomorrow has Constantine on there. Okay, enough rabbling for me. Let's get to the Rogue Report. And once again, just want to say I love you guys. Stay safe out there. Okay, don't take any ibuprofen. Seriously, I don't care what these so-called experts say. Stay away from ibuprofen and any of those anti-inflammatories if you think you have the virus. And just stay healthy. All right. Rick Hale is going to join me as soon as we come back. Right after this is Beyond the Strange. I'm your host, Dave Cruz. Don't go away.
This is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. I'm Jess Rogie. The U.S. Health and Human Service Department suffered a cyber attack as part of a campaign of disruption and disinformation aimed at undermining the country's response to an ongoing coronavirus outbreak. A spokesman for the National Security Council provided more information on the attack in a statement saying, "We are aware of the cyber incident related to the Health and Human Services computer networks, and the federal government is investigating this incident thoroughly. HHS and federal government cybersecurity professionals are continuously monitoring and taking appropriate actions to secure our federal networks. HHS and federal networks are currently functioning normally. A team of astronomers have located 139 new trans-Neptunian objects, which are sun-orbiting celestial bodies that are out past Neptune in the Kuiper Belt. The team observed over 300 trans-Neptunian objects, 139 of those which were completely new discoveries. The findings could also lead scientists to the mysterious Planet 9, a hypothetical large planet that some astronomers believe orbits the Sun from the most distant reaches of the solar system. A handful of astronomers believe that Planet 9 might actually be a black hole. In a video shared by Tales from Out There on YouTube, a triangle-shaped UFO was spotted over the skies of Chicago. The footage shows a camera panning to some high-rise buildings into a cloudy night sky. The two women recording can be heard trying to work out what they're seeing.
Government propaganda so we don't learn about aliens.
A reflection of what?
The lights in the city.
That's not what it looks like, though.
It doesn't. But
There's no events going on that would be like a light like that.
I am trying to...
The witness later explained that she and her friend both thought the object was a plane at first. Similar crafts were spotted in Texas earlier this year. An unusual petroglyph was discovered in central Iran. The prehistoric rock depicts a six-legged figure that appears to be inspired by the praying mantis. Archaeologists and entomologists teamed up to analyze the petroglyph. Their study suggests the figure may be a combination of a praying mantis and a human. The scientists estimate the Iranian carving could be anywhere from 4,000 to 40,000 years old. Based on the depiction of the insect, entomologists believe the mantis most likely belonged to a local species called Empusa, also known as the conehead mantis. This is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. I'm Jess Rogie.
Hey there, this is Ryan Gable of the Secret Teachings radio broadcast, and you are listening to the inquisitive Dave Cruz from Beyond the Strange on the Fringe FM.
Have you ever looked skyward and pondered UFOs, aliens, time travel, alternate universes, and parallel dimensions? Want to explore paranormal activities, hauntings, and various cryptoids such as Bigfoot, sea and lake monsters? Greetings, Beyonders. I'm author Casper Parks, and you're listening to Beyond the Strange with host Dave Cruz. Help spread the word by posting links to forums and social media. Available at YouTube, Spreaker, iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio.
All right, this is Beyond the Strange. I'm your host, Dave Cruz. Thank you all for being here tonight. Tonight we have a special treat. Tonight we have Rick Hale. Rick Hale became interested in the paranormal at a young age after interacting with an apparition. Rick is the author of Behold, Shocking True Tales of Terror and some other spooky stuff, and the Geeks Guide to the Strange and the Unusual, Poltergeists, Ghosts, and Demons. He has been featured in Ghost Tapes too. Rick is an associate editor of SpookyIsles.com and has articles published by Haunted Times, Paranormal Underground Magazine, SpookyIsles.com, Legends Magazine, and will be a guest blogger for Chicago Hauntings.com. For more info about Rick Hale, you can find him on Facebook, and you can go to SpookyIsles.com. Please help me welcome to the show for the first time, Mr. Rick Hale. Rick, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, Dave. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir, for being on the show tonight, and especially amidst all the craziness that's going on in the world right now.
Yeah, it's definitely makes life a lot more interesting to experience.
Yes, it does. That's for sure. And so you and I, Rick, we met on Facebook, and
Yes.
you do quite a bit with the paranormal. You have a lot of websites that you contribute to, and you've written some books.
Yes.
According to the bio and us talking, you have had some visitation from spirits and ghosts. And at what age again was it when you first encountered these apparitions and visitations?
Well, the first one, it was I was 8 years old, and it was in the summer of 1982, and it was in my grandparents' home in Franklin Park, Illinois, which is about 13 miles northwest of Chicago. And yeah, so that was the very first time that I had ever seen a ghost. Keep in mind, I'm not psychic by any means, so I've been I have seen them on investigations, but definitely that very first one was the one that started me down this lifelong path of um, I hope it doesn't sound too cheesy, but seeking the truth.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Are you there?
Oh, yeah, I'm here. I
Okay.
thought you lost me there for a second.
Oh, no.
Okay. Yes, I am
So as you were
definitely here.
saying, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
Yeah,
interrupt.
no, yeah, that's okay. It just sounded like there was like a weird lag there for a second.
Oh, wow.
I'm well aware of how, Skype works. But yeah, so it was the summer of 1982 in my grandparents' apartment or house, flat, whatever, in Franklin Park. And I got up to use the bathroom in the middle of the night. My cousin and I, we had just gotten done watching the Cubs lose miserably yet again.
Hmm.
And so I got up to use the bathroom, and I don't know if you know anything about older buildings in the Chicago area, but you would have like a front room, and then you would have a long hall that would lead back to where a kitchen and other bedrooms would be. So in this long hallway, there was no light in the hall. There was a bedroom that was off to the left and a bathroom that was to the right. And my grandmother always left the light on in the bathroom. So, us kids can see where it is that we were going. So I proceed to walk down the hall, and I see like somebody moving around in the bathroom. Now, my cousin Chris was asleep in the front room, and my grandparents, they had, their own bathroom, so there was no reason for them to be in this bathroom,
Mhm.
at like 10, 11 o'clock at night, whatever it was. And I get a little bit closer, and all of a sudden the light just switches off. And then I watch as the door opens, and then a woman walks out of the bathroom. And definitely wasn't my grandmother, because my grandmother, she was a very short woman. She's about 5 feet tall. This was a very tall woman. And I watched her as she walked out of the bathroom, and she was going to turn to walk off towards the kitchen. And then she looked down at me. Well, she turned around and she looked down at me, and she put her hand on my chin, and she said in a somewhat thick Irish accent, "My, what a fine young lad."
Mhm.
And then she just smiled at me, and then she turned and then walked off towards the kitchen. And as she was walking, she just sort of faded away.
Wow.
So, yeah. And it's funny too, because, talking to a lot of my cousins, like immediate cousins, and then, extended family and stuff like that, I wasn't the only person. I was the only people to have ever seen her were myself, my grandmother, and my uncle Luis. We were the only three people to have ever seen her. But other cousins had, they would hear voices, or or rather they would hear like the voice of a woman, or they would hear the sound of footsteps or things moving. My cousin Vicky, who lives in Alabama, um, she was up visiting one time, and she was telling me that while she was in the kitchen, she got a little too close to the stove, and then she felt a woman's hand touch her shoulder and then speak in her ear again with an Irish accent. Don't get too close to the stove. You may hurt yourself.
Hmm.
So, yeah, so everybody knew that my grandparents' house, for lack of a better term, was haunted.
Haunted.
And
Yeah.
we knew exactly who it was. It was the wife of the man who owned the building. His name was Mr. McNett. He's been gone for a long time now. Joined his wife many years ago, but it was his wife who died about 10 years previous. And you know, so I mean, she was still in the home, and she was very protective of kids because they never had kids of their own. So she was very protective of us kids in the apartment. And so yeah, that was my first experience was very positive. I know it's really kind of popular these days for people to kind of say, oh yeah, my first experience was with something evil in my house and it tormented me and my family. you know
Mm.
I'm not discounting that, because I'm sure that happens. I have no doubt that it does. But mine was very positive, and it was very um, kind of like I said, it set me on that path of wanting to learn more. I oftentimes joke with people that I knew about the dead before I learned how to ride a bike.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that was the thing that really set me on a lifelong course that I've been with consistently and have never, really stepped away from.
Interesting. It's weird. I didn't really start getting into the paranormal until maybe I was 9 or 10.
Hmm.
But I have heard a lot of people talk about having experiences when they're 5, 6 years old,
Sure.
and I'm wondering if that's. I mean, you're an investigator, of course, or you
Yeah.
probably asked the question. Does this kind of thing run in the family where other spirits and ghosts come and visit younger children?
Well, I just think that, when it comes to children, it's not so much that they're psychic,
Mm-hmm.
but their minds haven't been filled with all the cynicism of the world just yet. So they're a little bit more open to experiencing the unexplained. And, and then you sort of grow up in life and you're told, oh, these things don't exist. And then you convince yourself that these things don't exist. And, but they do. And, I've yeah, I've been have been an interest in this since 1982, been investigating since 1991, and I've had the pleasure of I should say the pleasure, but I have seen other apparitions,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very life affirming. A few years ago, I had a very scary experience. I went through cancer, and
Yes.
a very rare cancer, and I lost my leg and a part of my lung to it. But I had what I experienced my entire life to sort of, look at and say, okay, I know that a piece of us or that something of us does survive the death of the body. So it kind of, took the fear out of it a little bit for me. Dave?
Okay. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
there. I'm here.
yep. Okay.
The Skype thing is weird.
Yeah,
I don't know
Skype
why
is
it's doing
strange.
that tonight. Sometimes it freaks out. But yeah, no, I hear you about that. And I was going to ask you earlier if it's okay to mention that because I know you've gone through this personal journey of yours,
Hmm.
with the cancer.
Yeah.
So where
No,
are
that
you? I mean, you are good right now, right? I mean, I guess they would call
I
that remission, or
yeah, I like using the term cancer-free, or as my doctor calls it, or as they call it, no evidence of disease, or NED, which I think is kind of funny, NED. But yeah, it was a real, like you said, a personal journey.
mm,
And as a disabled person, I walk with a prosthetic leg. When I wear a pair of jeans, I just kind of look like a guy with a limp.
mm,
But I think it's important for people to understand that who do have a disability, that this field of research and investigation isn't just for people that are able-bodied. Um, People that do have a disability, they can be a part of this, and you know, do good things. They can be investigators and they can be researchers, and they can take a part of this, because these are not things that just affect certain people. This affects us all. We all have these questions, and no matter, what your status is in life, whether you are able-bodied or you have a disability, you should be able to take part in this. And I will always try and encourage other people with a disability to, that if they have an interest in this, to take part.
yeah, I can see that. Well, I'm glad that it hasn't stopped you,
No.
from doing what you really love to do. And I would actually maybe even think it would make you want to learn more about the afterlife and that kind of thing. What happens after? Where do we go? That kind of thing. All the questions that we ask each other. Why are we here? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And because I know, even though I haven't had bouts like that, my father passed away from cancer. And
Oh, I'm terribly sorry.
yeah, man, thanks. And it's like, I've often asked myself, why can't I hear him? Or why can't I get in touch with him? And because I was doing this kind of thing with ghosts and spirits, before he passed away. But I also know that there's been instances, and I'm sure you've had these. You could probably tell me stories about this, but my father was visited by his brother who passed on before him, before he passed away. So there's experiences like that that give me hope that there is something after this world, and that's why I'm interested in this stuff.
Yeah, I think that's and an interesting thing to consider. It's like, I've been in people's homes before that claimed that they had a ghost, or they thought that a family member was visiting them, and there was no real evidence to support their claim, other than it was just maybe something that they had experienced one time. But what you should be happy for is that if a spirit isn't appearing, that means they're where they need to be.
Yes.
And that's something that you can be happy for.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. And I'd like to believe that. And, I have my own faith and everything like that. And that, that doesn't really have a whole lot to do with this conversation, because I try to separate the spiritual from the religion part. You know what I mean? And I think that it's important to distinguish that with religion. Those are all traditions and rituals and that kind of thing. And spirituality is more of a faith, more of a believing in something. And that's just my opinion. So it does give me hope that I hear stories like that, or experiences where people have visited their families or their loved ones after they pass on. What is this going to ask? So when you started doing the research and the investigations, for one thing, are you any kind of, I know you said you weren't a medium, but are you an empath or a sensitive or anything like that?
I think that anybody who has done this for any amount of time
Mm-hmm.
can kind of develop a sensitivity to this sort of thing. Now, I mean, when you're talking about, psychic powers and mediums, I've had the pleasure of working with some, um, with a few psychics and mediums, and these are people that just their ability goes way beyond just a mere sensitivity or a mere situational awareness. If anything, I have what I would call more of a situational awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was developed before I got sick. I worked in a residential treatment facility with kids who were troubled, more or less. They had behavioral issues. So it's kind of like you learn how to have that situational awareness over time. Like you're in a situation, everything seems good, but then all of a sudden you're like, some serious S is about to go down. And sure enough, you're right. And I think that every human being can either develop that or has that.
Mm.
And yeah, so I would definitely call what I have is more of a situational awareness, definitely not a psychic ability.
And I'm assuming that when you do your ghost hunting or your investigations, have you ever carried any type of, say tools or equipment, anything like that?
Sure. I mean, my first investigation that I did in September of 1991, I was 17 years old, and the only thing that I had was a pad of paper and a pen, because that's kind of all you really needed back then. But yeah, I do have a couple of EMF detectors that I use, but I really try not to rely on that too much because there's so many different things that could cause them to go off. I mean, there's nothing wrong with using them. They're not ghost detectors by any means. But I kind of I like to rely upon my own five senses first, and then rely upon the equipment. But I do have some, and I do like using it.
When you do an investigation, you talk
Mhm.
to the owner of the house or the property or like that. What's the process in that you follow?
Well, the process in that is very simple. Usually when I do an investigation, it's myself and an assistant. And if I'm working with the medium at the time, a medium. And usually I would have the medium walk around the house, write down their impressions, and then match it up with what the homeowner has already told me. Because I absolutely tell the medium nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, or sometimes I will have, my assistant. I'm really not affiliated with anybody at the moment. I'm sort of like out of the game, so to speak, but I'm trying to get back to it, since, recovering from my sickness and losing my leg and all that. But yeah, when I was doing it, it was, it was me just interviewing the homeowner, the assistant walking around with the medium, getting her impressions, and then matching it up, and then beginning the actual investigation.
Okay. That's a good way to start the investigation. I don't know if I don't remember. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I believe in keeping things very, very easy, very simple, and very laid back. I
Sure.
don't want to unnecessarily scare anyone or alarm anyone. I want to make them understand that this, and I've had to tell people this before, that this is your home. This is where you live. You are the living person in this home. And you need to be assertive if you do have something in your home. And most of the investigations that I've ever done, the people, they wind up peacefully coexisting with whatever it is that they have in their house, or whomever they have in their house, I should rather say.
Yeah. Sorry about that. My button wasn't. A lot of weird stuff happening tonight with the audio.
Yeah.
Apologize.
That's okay.
But
No.
Yeah, no, that's true. You know, it's their home, and you know, the other thing too I believe in is intention, and
Hmm.
and so you know I believe that, like, say if there is a spirit, perhaps for some reason they're there because it was your intention to have there, or to not have them there, like. And yeah, I mean, we can go into exorcisms and stuff like that later, or having the ghost find the light and all that. But I feel it's all depends on the person who lives there, whether or not they want to have that spirit there. You know what I mean?
Right. And, a lot of times, this stuff gets filtered down through a person's belief system. Um, one person's, friendly ghost is another person's, oh my God, there's something terrifying in my house right now.
Right.
And, they may call it the dreaded D word, of course, demon or whatever. But, I think it's a lot of it does get filtered down through a person's belief system and how they perceive the infinite, because it's something that I always say is that the human mind is finite and it is not equipped to understand the infinite.
Have you heard of people who've had dreams of loved ones that have passed on, or maybe even people they don't even know, and then they end up being the actual person, or excuse me, the spirit of the person that lived in that house before, or they're trying to contact them?
Yeah, I think so. I've never experienced it myself, but I have heard of people that have that are contacted through dreams. Dreams are just the subconscious trying to work itself out in the mind as you sleep. And I do believe that spirits, ghosts, whatever,
Mhm.
can tap into that and present themselves and try to communicate with people through that.
Yeah, because I've had my own father. I've dreamt about him, and it was weird. It was like I remember when he passed away in our house, and you know they had to take him out, and I had a dream about that when they were doing that. But in this dream, he actually had a smile on his face, and
Mhm.
he was like kind of like waving at me, like with his hand a little bit, like moving it, like, and so he can get my attention, and and smile like he was okay. And it was
Mhm.
like, I don't know if that's me, you know, wanting to believe it, or if it's actually him telling me, hey, don't worry, I'm okay.
It could be, it could be, him just coming to say goodbye and then
Mm-hmm.
going to the place where he needs to be. And, that should give you kind of a peace because now
Does.
you know that they're at peace.
Mm-hmm. It really does. I really think that's what it was, and it does help. It really does.
Mhm.
Uh, in the YouTube chat, um, Super V Funcat has a question
Yeah,
for Rick
take that
and wants
name.
to know, can you please ask Rick if he no longer fears death?
Um,
I
you know
guess it's
what?
assuming if you ever were, you know.
It's really kind of hard to explain. It's not so much a fear of dying, it's a fear of leaving my loved ones behind.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what it is. It's like I know that a piece, like I said earlier, a piece of us exists. A piece of us can survive the death of the body. There is survival of intelligence. Um, but it's just the whole idea for me that I don't I want to see my son grow to be a man, and I would love to see grandchildren one day, and that is something that I fear is leaving the earth too early.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't, I don't want to see my family hurt because I left them at a certain time
Right.
too early.
Yeah.
Maybe if I'm 89 and I'm on my deathbed, I can understand that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stress right now because of this virus. And, you got to think, how many people are stressing and freaking out because they probably haven't got their life insurance, straightened out, or, we don't even know what's going to happen to any of us when we walk out that door. So, the fact that, any one of us can leave at any time is, it's a scary thing. I think, it's frustrating.
Yeah, it is, and like, but at the same time too, you got to think to yourself that this is the great unknown.
Yes.
Nobody really, really knows what lies beyond. So is it really something to be afraid of, or is it something to be like, wow, this could be like a really great adventure? Yeah, it's one of those things that makes humans so unique as a species. We are born and we have this innate sense of existential dread. Now, whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, it depends on your own, how it is you want to think about it. But, you're going to die, and that's just the way it is. There's nothing you can do about it.
That's right. If not today or tomorrow, it will happen.
Right.
It happens to the best of us. That's just it took me a while to come to grips with that. It gave me a lot of panic attacks when I was like in my early teens. I don't even know why I was thinking about it back then. I was, basically hanging out with friends and, smoking doobies and stuff like that. Right. And, I was like not really worried about stuff. But then like one day out of the blue, I was just terrified. Like, oh my God, what happens after I die? And then I've already been involved with, spirits and ghosts and stories and stuff like that about supernatural things. But it was just weird. It's like, why am I thinking about this right now? I'm only like, 16, 17 years old. It was weird.
Yep. No, it is. But it's something that we all kind of have to go through, and we all, have to deal with. And that depends upon you, what kind of person you are. But yeah, not really so much a fear of death, but just, man, I don't want to go too quick, too early.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. Let's get back to some of these questions for you, Rick.
Sure.
All right. So some of the things about spirits and, visitations and ghosts, people hear things. In your case, you actually saw the apparition and you heard this ghost. Did it sound like they were talking to you in your head, or did you actually have an audio experience?
Well, see, now that's one of the really interesting things, because one of the theories in parapsychology, for example, is that the energy that makes up a ghost actually projects itself into your mind what it wants you to see and experience. That's been one of the long-standing theories in parapsychology, and it's one that I happen to believe in. But in that moment, whether or not it was like energy that is, just this, nebulous energy projecting itself into my brain. I think that when I saw her and heard her, it sounded like she was right in front of me. But but it could have been that thing where that nebulous energy was projecting itself into my brain. And that's one of the interesting things. It's like you always want to find out more. It's like, are you really actually seeing this with your eyes, or are you seeing this with your mind's eye? That's one of the things that's always fascinated me about parapsychology.
In the case of your family member, they actually felt the touch on their shoulder, right?
Yes. My cousin Vicky, she said that she felt this hand touch her shoulder and kind of pull her a little bit, and then the voice whisper in her ear. again, I mean, is this a physical touch? Is it telekinesis? Psychokinesis? Is it, this nebulous energy projecting itself into her brain? Nobody can really tell for sure.
Have you seen floating objects before?
I have, yes. Not so much floating. I didn't really see, but I heard. So I just want to be, I want to clarify that. It was in an investigation in McHenry, Illinois. It was about 10, 12 years ago. And the homeowner, this was when I was a member of a much larger group. And we were in the basement where people were seeing things move, and people were, like whatever was in the basement, like to move things around. So we're standing in the basement, and I put a Coke can on. Do you remember back in the 70s how we used to have there was like a TV and a stereo, and it was a big long thing, and there was like a cover that you brought down on it. Do you remember those?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, so this was what it was. I was more fascinated with the fact that anybody even still had this in their home. And so I'm standing there and I am like begging for this spirit. I'm like, please just move this can. Do this one time for me. And I did this for about 5 minutes. And the medium that was with us, she's like, this ghost thinks you're hilarious. He is laughing at you right now. He says that he is just going to throw this can at you. I'm like, okay, cool. So I turned my back to face the medium and to face the other people. And all of a sudden I hear the can move across this thing. And I turn around and sure enough, this can moved a good foot from where I had put it. There was nobody else around. So I didn't actually see it with my eyes, but I definitely heard it. And everybody else saw it happen. They saw it happen, but not me, the person that wanted this entity to move this can. So that kind of showed me that if you have a sense of humor in life, you're going to have a sense of humor in death as well.
Right. Yeah, I've heard about that actually. And I've heard about that actually through my church. they talked about that it's just, nothing really changes. Sometimes it might amplify it, but the way you pass away is the way you end up. Interesting stuff. But I've never seen anything move. When I see things move like on video and film, which I'll ask you something about that in a second, it kind of verifies to me that there is something happening, that there is some kind of energy there that's doing these kind of things. The Night Stalker in the Fringe FM chat room wants to ask Rick, what brings a ghost to a certain area? Are they attracted to you or your house, or is your house built on a ley line or a portal? There's the ley line part question. But he wants to know, what's the attraction?
I think the attraction could be all of the above. Actually, I think that in many instances, a place where a person dies, that they have a deep emotional attachment to that place, and they want to stay there. Or it could be built on a naturally occurring portal, or it could be built on a ley line. An investigation that I did in Waukegan a number of years ago, we got this amazing EVP where I'm asking the question, how do you come into the home? And then you hear this voice whisper, they want us to come in through the window. And I detail it in my book, Behold, Shocking True Tales of Terror. And it's in the chapter called The House of 100 Spirits. And so I do believe that there was a portal in this home naturally occurring, and these entities were able to come and go at will. But as far as that's concerned, I think that it's all of the above. And definitely spirits can be attracted to people. Thankfully, I've never had an attachment. When I would go out on investigations, my wife would always just laugh and say, hey, don't bring anything home with you. Thankfully, I've never had that happen. But yeah, so definitely all of the above.
Interesting. And yeah, that can happen. They can follow you home, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that's about, but you know, I've been told in my early days when I started checking out houses and stuff like that, I've had people that I'd go to who've done it before me, and I'd ask them questions, and I would say, "What do I have anything to worry about when I leave the house?" And they're like, "Yeah, you don't want them to follow you." And I'm like, "Okay, I didn't know that was a thing." And they're like, "Oh yeah, it is." And one of the things would be to, again, intention, belief, whatever you want to call it. He told me that I should, you know, say a prayer if that's what you believe in. And at the same time, you know, let the spirit know that they have to stay there and they cannot follow you back. That you must, you know, remain in the house or wherever they're at. And that way you don't get the attachment.
Yeah, you know, I think too, one of the things that I try to do, I try to keep myself completely objective and detached from the situation, because I do think that people that do have a tendency to become very emotional in an investigation, their emotional attachment or their emotional involvement can actually cause something to attach itself to them and follow them home. So it's like, you know, not being a religious person myself, I just tend to keep myself very objective and very emotionally detached from, you know, from an investigation. And I think that that's the best thing to do. But I mean, if you want to say a prayer too, hey man, that's totally up to you.
Yeah. I see nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, not at all.
And, you know, if it helps the investigation go along, or, you know, if it helps you feel that they're not going to come back with you, then I think that's why he told me that, because I was new to the whole thing. And he probably didn't want, you know, to see me come back with a ghost attached to me or anything like that.
Sure.
And I did it too. I did it too, because I was like, I had felt something. I'll share that later, but we do have to take a break, and when we come back, we'll you know, get into maybe some phone calls, some more questions for Rick. We are speaking with Rick Hale. He is a paranormal investigator and author, and you are listening to Beyond the Strange, and we'll be right back right after this. Don't go away.
Hey, this is Deb, and you're listening to Dave Cruz on Beyond the Strange Radio.
Tea is the #1 cleansing tea in America. We cleanse you with organic ingredients, and when used daily, you can increase your energy. Cleanse from intruders that set up camp in your colon. Cleanse your colon and feel the difference. Colon cleanses can be uncomfortable. Not Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com. Life Change Tea is mild yet truly effective. Cleanse your insides every day. Easy to make, easy to use, and feel the results. Are you sold? Okay, then here's how to order. Log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Look for our specials on the front page. Get the Tea also carries top-rated supplements for those who care about their health naturally. Again, log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com and feel the results. And for those of you that arm yourself with information, come to our webinar every other Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. That's every other Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific. You can sign up at getthetea.com.
The truth is out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com. Or to speak with a trained consultant. Give Angioprim a call at 954-882-7221. That's 954-882-7221.
Hi, Jeremy Scott here from Into the Paranormal, and I'm back live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Fringe FM.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Beyond the Strange. I'm your host, Dave Cruz. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We are speaking with paranormal investigator and author, writer, Rick Hale. Has been good enough to be with us tonight, and fascinating information, and it's been a really nice show tonight. I really glad to have him on there. He is the author of True Tales, Behold, Shocking True Tales of Terror and some other spooky stuff, and The Geeks Guide to the Strange and Unusual Poltergeists, Ghosts and Demons. You can find Rick on Facebook, or you can go to spookyisles.com. Once again, help me welcome back to the show Rick Hale. Rick, thank you for joining us again tonight. I really appreciate being here tonight.
Hey, thanks a lot, Dave. It's been a real pleasure.
I'm really happy to hear that. And did I leave anything out? Is there any way else they can find you on the internet or anything like that?
No, that's pretty much it.
Okay, cool. We can do that, and you can find Rick at those locations. Plus, I got links on beyondthestrange.com, and you can find them that way as well. The phone number to call is 1-415-891-9083. Again, that's 1-415-891-9083. And just as I said that, Super V Cat, Fun Cat, wants to know if you have a YouTube channel.
I do not.
Okay, so there you go. But you do podcasts. you have a archive?
No, I used to, years ago, I co-hosted Paranormal Underground Radio, and I did that for about 5 or 6 years, and then I did a year um, of my own with called Common Sense Paranormal Radio. They were all at ztalkradio.com. But I was involved in Ghost Tapes 2, which was a documentary. That was a lot of fun, and a few episodes of Ghost Tapes, the series, which can be found on YouTube. Although it's not, my YouTube, and I wasn't the filmmaker. I was just, involved in it.
Okay. So there you go, Super V Fun Cat. You can find some of that, and you can always hear Rick on this episode, so you can do that as well. And there was some questions for you, Rick, before we went to the break. This comes to you from Catalina in the Fringe FM official Discord channel, and she wanted to know, do ghosts meditate while the living does?
Wow, Catalina, I've never even thought of that before.
Good question.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I'm going to have to be honest with you. I don't know. I've never even thought of that before. I'm not a meditator myself, which is, something I should probably do because it does make you feel pretty good about yourself. But, I guess that, if the spirit had some kind of religious practice in life, again, it's one of those things where if they had it in life, maybe they carry it over into their death. So that's the only answer that I can give. And, just be honest, I don't know.
That's an honest answer to a pretty good question.
Yeah, I mean, and an old martial arts teacher once told me, it's like the three most dangerous words in the English language are "I don't know" and when they're strung together. But he's like, what's even more dangerous is remaining ignorant. If you don't know something, try and find it out. And that's something that I'm gonna have to try and find out.
As will I. That is a good question. That's a really good question. Yeah, thanks for that, Catalina.
Thank you.
Let's see, what else? Was there anything else in YouTube? I thought I saw a question. I think that was the YouTube channel question. Night Stalker has a question, and he wants to know, who was they that wanted the ghost to use the window?
You know what? This family in Waukegan had experienced a lot of entities in their home. Who they are, if this was something that was naturally occurring, they could be, any kind of, spiritual being or whatever, or if this was something that was opened up by somebody that was involved in, say occult rituals or magic of some kind, that was something that could have happened long before we ever came on the scene. And this spirit speaking in this EVP just didn't specify. They said they want us to come in through the window. Whether, if that's like the royal they or whatever, it's hard to say. Yeah, this was easily the most active house that I had ever been in. And I saw, this was another instance where I saw another apparition in this home. I saw the apparition of a tall blonde-haired woman wearing white clothes. And the best way that I could say it, that they looked like white nurses' scrubs or doctor scrubs. And she just appeared in the hallway. And I watched her as she went into a room of this home, and myself and another investigator, we ran into this room, and the only people in there was the homeowner's teenage daughter and the family. They were Armenian, so they had very olive colored skin and dark hair and dark features. and a friend of hers who was African American. So there was definitely no tall, blonde-haired woman in white clothing that I went into this room, because this room was only slightly bigger than a broom closet. Nowhere for anybody to hide. So I definitely saw one of the apparitions that was in these people's homes. And again, this was another one of those where it's like they were sharing their home with multiple spirits, and when we left that investigation that night, they seemed to be okay with it.
Man, that's some interesting stuff.
Yeah, it was definitely a very, very cool instance. I mean, that was the first apparition that I had seen since I was 8 years old.
Right.
That was a long, long time. So, it definitely reasserted itself into my mind.
Yeah, I remember seeing Night Stalker in there. He said he wants to see a ghost. I myself have never seen a ghost, but what I was leading to before the break is when I did one of my first investigations, I wasn't really prepared because I didn't know you could actually feel the energy of the spirit. And
sure.
It took me by surprise. And what I felt at the time was I felt like my chest was hurting. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was having a heart attack. And when I left the area of where I was at, it went away. And then later on, I brought a medium with me, and she confirmed that the person that lived there, the ghost that was there, had died from a heart attack.
I was going to say that because it sounds exactly, what a lot of people experience on investigations. It's they feel that energy. They have that experience of like, this is what this person had, gone through in life. There was an investigation that I did many years ago where a young man had killed himself because he was gay. And he felt that his family was not going to be accepting of that. So, and it was very sad. And although I am not, psychic, we were able to connect with him and tell him that, you know what, it's okay that you are you and you didn't have to do these kind of things. So it kind of gave him peace. And according to the medium that we were working with, it gave him the peace to finally, move on into the great unknown, whatever you want to say, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that's terrible, man. That they took themselves out because nobody could accept them for the way they were.
Yeah, and it was
felt that way. Yeah.
Yeah, and because of it, he was causing a lot of problems in that home. Things around and, being angry and appearing before people and scaring them and then disappearing because his life was so miserable and it ended so violently because other people made him feel miserable. So, moral of the story is be nice to other people no matter what.
Yeah, and that reminds me of that movie, the one that Adam Sandler does, the one where he goes back to school.
Oh yeah, Billy Madison. Yeah,
Billy Madison. That's it. And he calls it one of his old classmates, and he apologizes for the way he treated him. And then at the end of the movie, the guy actually helps him by shooting the other guy in the butt with a gun.
I call that guy.
Yeah, exactly, man. Because you never know. You never know when you tell a person something or you treat them a certain way, how it's going to come back on you. It's karma at its best.
Sure.
But it's interesting stuff, man, and that is interesting. That definitely goes along with spirits and ghosts, and you never know what can happen when you treat someone or you friend someone like that. So I got to ask you this question because I ask a lot of people this question. The differences between ghosts and demons.
Well, that's demons are kind of a touchy subject for me, so I'm going to give you like the pop culture answer for that.
That's fine.
Ghosts, apparitions, spirits, entities were once people, living human beings. Demons, assuming if they exist, were never walked the earth in human form. That's the pop culture answer to that. Would never presume to call myself a demonologist, and I do not consider myself to be the person to deal with that kind of thing. If I were to ever suspect that I was dealing with something, and I've never dealt with anything like that. I mean, I'm going on 30 years of being an investigator, and I've never come across anything like that. But if I ever were to, I would more than likely tell that person that, maybe you need to talk to your clergy, whether they be a priest or a preacher or a rabbi. That's the person to talk to about that kind of thing. What I focus on as a psychical researcher, which is kind of an old-fashioned way of saying parapsychologist. I can't call myself a parapsychologist because I don't have any degrees in an associated thing like sociology or psychology, so I have to call myself a psychical researcher. I'm more concerned with psychic ability and survival of the intelligence after the death of the body. It's not that I don't care about religious-based phenomenon. I just leave that to the experts.
Right. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you roll with what you know and what you're comfortable with, and the other stuff is somebody else's problem.
I mean, want to put it like
I mean, it's true though. I mean, it's like, look, when I first started doing this, my interests were UFOs, aliens, of course, Bigfoot, and ghosts. And the more I got into these topics and subjects and met more and more people, I found out that there was also other things. I didn't know about chemtrails until about 5 years ago. The conspiracy stuff.
Not a conspiracy guy.
Right. I learned about MK Ultra and super soldiers and time travelers and, it just, the list goes on,
Sure.
So
you
there's always these, I'm sorry.
Going and going. I said, you kind of go down the rabbit hole and you keep going and going and going.
Yes, exactly. I try to stick to the main three. And, I mean, there's not hardcore evidence as far as I know about like Illuminati or New World Order, but there's things that I hear that make me go, that kind of thing. But again, it's like spiritual stuff, ghosts, demons, poltergeist, UFOs, aliens, even cryptids like Bigfoot and chupacabras and stuff like that. And then there's the lore, like fairy folk and that kind of thing.
Right.
That stuff is the kind of the stuff, the staple that I try to stick to, because those were the things that interest me, but they also, to me, seem like they have more, I don't know, sustenance. I don't know what you want to call it.
Sure. No, I get what you're saying.
But,
yeah. I mean, I tend to stay within a comfort zone, more or less. The things that I know, the things that I'm familiar with, the things that I understand, like I said, when it comes to any kind of religious-based phenomenon, I leave that stuff to somebody else. And, like the conspiracy stuff, I'm not really a conspiracy guy. I mean, first off, I'm not really that important that I have to worry about anybody being out to get me. And, secondly, I mean, if there is things like the Illuminati, or if there is, I do believe that there is a concerted effort by the governments of the world to kind of keep aliens and stuff like that on the down low.
Mm-hmm.
That is kind of the only conspiracy that I will subscribe to. Otherwise, not really a conspiracy guy.
Yeah. And just to clear it up, Night Stalker, I wasn't calling Bigfoot a conspiracy. I was saying that Bigfoot and cryptids are some of the things that I don't consider conspiracy, and along with ghosts and aliens and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's all fascinating. You know, it's all interesting stuff. It's now the thing that I've also been running into is a lot of new agey stuff, and you know, which some people would call woo or woo woo, but you know, and that's okay. You know, I'm sure, you know, that has its own thing, and it's okay. That's good. I just don't delve into those subjects, and my buddy Joe Roop would probably do better than that, because he's more of a magician and does the esoteric stuff, you know, Kabbalah, magic, things like that, astrology, tarot, and you know, I see a lot of things in that, you know, to a degree, you know, that there's some you know, evidence that stuff is real. So you know, I don't want to start an argument with anyone, but I do believe that stuff is definitely its own thing, and I'm just I don't know enough of it, but yeah, I stick to good old ghost and Bigfoot and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I do, and I see that's kind of what you do, you know, with the ghost.
Yeah. I tend to just you know, stick with psychic ability, you know, checking out things like psychic ability and, you know, survival of intelligence after the death of the body. That's my jam.
There you go. That's your jam.
It's my jam.
Nice, nice. Do you delve into ufology at all? UFOs and aliens?
You know, I've never actually seen one, but yeah, it does interest me. And it didn't interest me up until about the mid-90s, when I had met an elderly gentleman in Evanston, Illinois. He was a vet of both World War II and the Korean War, and when he was in the Korean War, it was the final days of the war. He claimed that he was abducted right from the battlefield. And, well, not really so much from the battlefield, but he and his, you know, some of his men, they were out, you know, patrolling the area,
right?
And they came under attack by enemy fire, and he claims that he was taken aboard. And I never really had cared about it all that much, and I was sort of skeptical about that kind of thing. I mean, obviously, it is a mathematical certainty that life exists elsewhere in the universe. It's just whether or not they have the ability and the technology to get here. That's, you know, I think that's kind of a sticking point for some people. But the way this elderly gentleman, and I will never say his name, I am promised him, and I promised his family that I would never tell anybody his name.
Sure.
And the way he told his story with such conviction that I believed him. You know, I mean, you kind of, you can kind of tell when somebody's lying to you, when they're trying to BS you, and then you could tell people who are being 100% honest with you. And, you know, this elderly gentleman was being very honest with me. And I do believe that he experienced this. And that's what kind of got me a little bit more interested in, you know, starting to question more, that it's like, you know, maybe there is something to these, you know, to all the people down through the years that claim to have come into contact or had a close encounter experience. I don't believe that everybody is going to lie to you and try and BS you. They either really did experience something, or they think, or they convince themselves somehow that they experienced something. But, I do think that people are going to be, I think that humans have have an innate sense of knowing when somebody is lying to you and somebody's being honest with you.
I agree with you.
Yeah. And I do believe that people do see things that they can't quite explain. And then that's why there's people like us, that they can tell their stories to, and we can try and explain to them. We can try to do the research. We can investigate, and we can look into them.
Yep. I totally agree with that. And I'm glad there are people like you, Rick, that do these things as well as me. We do have a caller on the line, 403. Welcome to Beyond the Strange. You're on with Dave Cruz and Rick Hale.
Hi, Dave, and hi, Ray. It's Genevieve. How are you?
Oh, hey, Jen. How you doing? It's actually Rick Hale. Rick.
It's Rick.
Rick. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was trying to figure out your name before, but I missed it. I just want to say hello, and it's a good show. It's really interesting.
Thank you,
Jen. And I have a demon story to share with you, and I don't know if I've shared it before. I think I have on Joe's show sometime way back, but I'll share it tonight anyways. It happened to me when I was a little girl. I was about 4 or 5 years old. And as a kid, I had a super active imagination, and I remember knowing that there were devils or demons, and I had a friend who was a demon, as an imaginary friend, quote unquote. And I believe I thought this demon or devil was an astronaut, right? And so I've never forgotten this dream because it was so vivid. And I don't know if I think I told my granny that I had a friend who was a demon. Of course, she was Catholic, and she must have freaked out. So she said to me, I'm sure she must have said to me, don't be friends with a demon, and you'll burn in hell and all this stuff. And I never thought that, but I went to bed that night, and I dreamt, of course. Yeah. I dreamt that I was in this beautiful place. It was like a seascape with a beautiful pier, and at the end of the pier there was this house, like boathouse. And my friend, the astronaut, or the demon, was there, and he was like, here, come over here, I have something to show you. And I was like, okay, and I went with him. And immediately afterwards, he turned into this flaming monster with bulging eyes, and it was like really weird because he kept trying to like throw me into this fire, right? It was just awful. Like he just kept trying to throw me in the fire, and I'd get out and I'd try to run up these stairs. It was actually the stairs of my house, and he'd catch me and throw me back in. And I think the end of the dream was where I turned around and I just stared at him, and that was the end of the dream. It was just, but I've never been able to forget this dream because it was just so, it was like just like the demons that they portray. And I don't know if I'd ever seen a picture like that or anything, but it was just so visceral. And as a kid at 4 years old, I had a very active imagination, but I mean, I forget a lot of my dreams, and this one I've never forgotten.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah,
it was just very religious experience for sure.
Sure.
The fear factor, turning around and just staring at the thing that makes you afraid, and it disappears, right? But I don't know. I just wanted to share it with you because it wasn't something I, as a kid, would have thought I would have experienced, but who knows? So,
well, thank you for
I don't know.
sharing.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, Rick, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it could be because, you have something that is filtered down through a belief system. And even at 4 years old, you are still told that these kind of entities exist. I mean, I myself, I was brought up in a very evangelical family. Started out as Catholic, went to being evangelical. So, that kind of thing was always there. And then you put that with a very vivid imagination, and then your subconscious mind trying to, work things out, kind of like just, a powder keg of having a really bad nightmare. When I was a kid up to
But it was so, like, honestly, I don't dream like this all the time. This was like, if it was like the astral. So I'm wondering if it was an entity. Before that, the demon or the devil word was just a word, and, oh, he's my friend. Can you imagine going around telling people that? Freaks them all out. It's like, what? This kid's, she's, I don't know. Anyways, but like before that, it wasn't real. It wasn't a demon. But after that, I think I invited something in. I think it was real. I mean, it was so brilliant. There was the brilliance of being on this dock and this astronaut was very real looking, and I don't know. I feel like maybe because my granny said to me, well, you shouldn't be friends with the demon, you're going to burn, and your imagination fires it all up to some super cute place. But then you meet what looks like a real demon, and you get the experience.
Sure.
I don't know.
I don't want to like dismiss or downplay what it is that you experience, because obviously I wasn't there. But it really kind of just sounds to me like, imagination mixed with, religious belief that is taught to you. And then, your subconscious mind trying to figure something out. I had a dream up till the time I was 18 years old that I was a World War I British soldier. And I died in battle. And that was a very, very real dream to me. I did have somebody try and tell me that was probably a dominant past life. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. But it definitely was something that was very real to me and very vivid. Was it a past life, or was it just my imagination as a kid? And I did have kind of a fascination with World War I and World War II and the history of it at that time. So, I don't want to dismiss or downplay what it is that you experienced, but it could have been that. It could have been that. Again, you were 4 years old.
Yeah. I would say that, I'm sorry, but I would say that if you had a dream like that of being in the World War, was it one?
Yes.
And the fascination with it, I would say that was past life. Because as a kid, I'm like, okay, I'm not super imaginative. Most of the time, I just go through life, yada, 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 right? And then when things do hit me like that, they're exponentially more vivid than anything else I've experienced. I mean, they don't just come out of nowhere. They must have come out of an experience or an actual interaction, I think, because most of us don't have the ability to clear that energy and just see and create stuff like that. I honestly think that the imagination is the step into the astral realm where you pick out stuff. But we actually, as beings, aren't usually able to make that happen unless we do a lot of path working and stuff like that. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm just saying when you get a download like that, such a vivid image, when you've never had an image like that before, I don't know how that would be something you can just create out of the ether. You'd have to have something more going on. Like you'd have to be able to step into the astral and see it.
Yeah,
that's
what
very
I
interesting.
think.
Yeah. Thanks, Jen. That was an awesome call.
Okay, thanks so much. I'll let you go and keep going. It's an awesome. I'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks, Jen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Fascinating.
Well, you want to know what's real? We live on a farm, We live about 40 miles north of Chicago. And right as she's telling this story, all of a sudden I can hear all the coyotes out in the field all of a sudden going. Like one time I was like, whoa, that's kind of weird. But yeah, that was definitely an interesting experience. I mean, like I told her, I don't want to like dismiss or downplay what she experienced, but it just kind of sounds to me like, the subconscious mind, trying to work itself out with having a vivid imagination and, filtering stuff down through a religious belief system.
Mm-hmm.
That's my personal opinion. Whether or not I'm right, that's another thing entirely.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I do think that sometimes, now, I don't know if you've heard these theories or not, Rick, but I've had a friend of mine, Alex Mastretta, who's also a researcher and author, and he's worked with people who have, I can't remember his name. God, it escapes me, but he's very famous. So I should know his name. But they worked on the poltergeist story of, no, not the poltergeist, the entity.
He worked with Barry Taft.
Yes, there you go, Barry Taft. And and I believe his findings or his research was more like the woman who the story was based around. That wasn't so much that this entity was following her or living in her house, but it might have actually been her projecting her psychic energy to cause all this kind of stuff, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense, and I do agree because that's what a poltergeist is. A poltergeist is not a ghost. According to traditional psychical research in parapsychology, a poltergeist is innate psychic ability that is disturbed by trauma or something seriously psychological, and then it gets pushed out into this surrounding environment, and can move stuff around, can set fires. For the longest time, parapsychologists was like, well, this happens to children who are going through the trials and travails of puberty, for whatever reason, because, apparently it's because a lot of these kind of stories of poltergeist, of recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis started around children, but there have been a number of poltergeist cases down through history during the 20th century where older people were the poltergeist focus or agent or conduit, if you will. They were putting out this psychic energy. One is in Rosenheim, Germany in 1967, and the other one, which happened at this roughly the same time in Miami, Florida, where a young man, he was a Cuban immigrant, and he hated his job so much, and he was, people were being very racist towards him. At that time, it was, very, a lot of people from Cuba were experiencing, extraordinary amounts of racism,
right,
in Florida, and when it was investigated by William Roll, he found that this young man had this, this inner turmoil, and it was pushing itself out psychically, and causing chaos in the atmosphere, in the environment. So it does. I've only experienced, I've experienced two poltergeists. One was poltergeist energy that was kind of just on its way out the door. It was coming to an end. Another one was with a woman over the phone, and I was turned on to this by a colleague of mine, and she had a ghost hunting group in her home, and this ghost hunting group had told her that her house was infested with demons, and her special needs daughter, who was autistic, was possessed by the devil. I was angry about this. The temerity to tell a woman that her special needs child is possessed by the devil, and to add insult to injury with this, they were going to charge her $3,000 to cleanse her home of the demons.
That's
exactly. And I talked to this woman on the phone for a little while, and I told her what I suspected what it was, and I told her I'm like, maybe if because at the time she was going through a divorce, her husband was abusive, and he walked out because he didn't want to help her deal with their daughter who was autistic. So it was my belief that this was causing an inner turmoil in her, and she was the one who was being the poltergeist agent. That she was the one that was putting this energy out into the environment. And I told her, I'm like, well, why don't you see if you can, talk to somebody like a therapist or, a licensed clinical social worker. And she did. And within 2 weeks of her speaking with this, to a licensed clinical social worker, the energy in the house stopped.
There you go. Yep. That makes sense. We got one more caller, and we got just a few minutes. 978, you're on with Rick Hale and Dave Cruz.
Hey, Dave. Hey, Rick. Really cool show. It's the Night Stalker.
Hey,
awesome
brother.
Show tonight.
Oh,
thank you.
Oh, hey, Night Stalker. Hello.
Definitely. I'm calling from inside the store, so I'll make it quick, and I know we're running out of time. But I heard the story a few years ago, and I thought it was really interesting. It's kind of like a different take on one extra possibility of what these ghosts could be. So there was this family, like this mother and her 3 sons. And for when the sons were very, very little, the mother was sitting in the living room and then saw these three ghosts standing at the other side of the room or some in the door in the doorway or whatever. And for the kids' whole lives, they told the kids that story of the ghost. Remember the time I saw the ghost? I saw a ghost one time. And then fast forward 30 years, she dies. And the 3 sons are standing where she saw the ghosts, and they saw the ghost of of their mother, sitting where she was sitting when she saw the ghost. So in that case, it's almost like they were seeing each other outside of time. It wasn't actually ghosts. It was a weird time thing. That in this case, this ghost story she was telling for 30 plus years was actually her seeing her sons in the future. It's pretty crazy, right?
Yes, and I have heard that story before, and I do believe that that's what is called a time slip, and that was experienced by 2 teachers who were visiting 2 American, I think they were American, no, they were English teachers. They were visiting Versailles in the early 20th century, and when they walked through this arch, they all of a sudden found themselves back in time, and they claimed to have, seen Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, and they were seeing everything as it was before the French Revolution. And then they walked back through this arch, and it all just faded away. And I've heard plenty of those stories before. That of course being the most famous. And in parapsychology, they call that a time slip.
Yeah. In this case, though, they didn't travel anywhere. It was just the mother was telling these kids the story of these ghosts she saw, but in reality, the ghost she saw was actually her grown-up kids 30 years later. So she didn't enter any world. It's just it's almost like those 2 universes rubbed together. Who's to say maybe these ghosts we're seeing, these one-off ghosts, could be somebody walks through your room. Maybe you're not actually seeing a deceased person. Maybe you're seeing somebody from outside of time. What you're saying about the missing 411 falling into a time slip, that's also awesome to me. But
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. I'll let you go,
man.
Awesome show. Thank you.
Thanks, Night Doctor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And man, we are out of time. That went really quick. Rick, can you please let the audience know where they can find you and everything that's you?
Everything that is me. Well, they can find me at Facebook, and actually you could find me through Dave's Facebook page if you're interested in, connecting on Facebook and in social media. And you can, I do a lot of work for SpookyIsles.com, which is a website that deals primarily with haunted places and horror and horror literature, all in England. I've never actually been to England, but I've studied their haunted places extensively, and I write for them. And you can find me at Legends Magazine, which is put out by monthly by Mary Sutherland. She is an amazing lady. And you can also find me at ChicagoHauntings.com, where you'll periodically be doing blogs for them as well. But, mainly you can just find me through Facebook and just, send me a friend request and, connect. I'm always happy to chat with people.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rick, for being on the show. And I will talk to you soon, my friend, probably through Facebook.
Okay. All right.
Please come back again. That was great.
I will. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Have a good night.
Okay. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Rick Hale, everyone. Paranormal investigator, author, writer. And yes, I have links for Rick at beyondstrange.com or just, my Facebook. So with that, we got to get out of here. And that was a fantastic show. Remember, Beyond Strange is owned and copyrighted by Dave Cruz and cannot be simulcast, rebroadcasted, or copied without written consent of Beyond Strange. Also, the views and opinions are not necessarily that of Beyond Strange. Hosts, guests, and affiliated networks. Listeners are encouraged to conduct research and formulate their own opinions. Executive producer and creator of Beyond the Strange is Dave Cruz. Co-executive producer is Deb J. Cruz. And music is by Alan Hall and Zebrafish. Beginning disclaimer by sci-fi author Casper Parks. Visit him at casperparks.com. Thanks to everyone reposting on Twitter, Facebook, and Discord, and tell your friends about Beyond the Strange. And remember, stay safe, stay strange, and always just have a great time. Until then, next week, everyone, have a great time. And remember, no ibuprofen. Love y'all. Have a great night. Hasta.